There was no, to my knowledge, there hasn't been any correlation of that. And the creatures that are described in Socorro, in New Mexico, and in Valensole in France, so those are three cases that I've been very involved in from the beginning, from day one, involve creatures that are about 3 feet tall, that breathe our air,
Hairless?
recognize our signals, communicate with us in funny ways, even mentally. I mean, the witnesses describe getting images in their minds and so on, in all three cases. And what's interesting is, people can argue about Trinity all they want, like they argue about Roswell, but the case in Socorro and the case in France, in Valensole, were investigated by governments, not by the local UFO group, although the local UFO group did a good job in all those cases. But they were, in Socorro, it was first the local police, the local policemen saw the craft and the beings and described what happened. He was terrified, but, when the thing took off, he thought it was something to do with some new gadget or some work in the desert. It's an area that's still in the same state today. I've gone back there with Dr. Hynek's son, with Paul Hynek a few months ago. I've gone several times there. And so after the police, turned out the FBI was in town on another case. They had no jurisdiction in New Mexico for that particular case. It wasn't a federal case, but they helped preserve the traces, the FBI way. And the local police was happy to have them there. And then there was the state police came in and did an investigation. And then people from the base, came in with experts in explosives, experts in recovery of weapons and rockets and so on, because they thought it might be something that had come from the Trinity range that was out of its way,
right,
and had crashed near Socorro,
right,
in which case they might have responsibility, including financial responsibility if something was destroyed or whatever. So this was very serious. I have the whole file. Okay, it's a big file.
Right.
Nobody's looking at it. I mean, the investigation in Washington now, they are saying, we're going to look at the cases of the last 12 months. Well, what kind of science is that? Can you imagine scientists reading this? And this is the way they are going to solve the UFO problem, by looking at vague pictures of lights in the sky for 1 year? Why don't they go back to those records? Those are federal records. Okay? The case in Valensole, 5 agencies of the French government. So this guy was a farmer. He had a field where he was growing plants to make perfume. So this was high-level, expensive crop. This wasn't just, alfalfa or something. And he goes there at 5 o'clock in the morning because, he wants to do to water the thing and so on before the sun is up, because it's going to be south of France. It's going to be very hot. You can't work in the field during the early afternoon. So he wants to be done with that. He sees this contraption, in the middle of the field, crushing the plants. And so he sneaks in, and he's paralyzed. Okay. Now there is an egg-shaped object, just like the one, at Trinity, just like the one in Socorro. It's the size of a mid-sized truck. There are 2 creatures in front of it, human looking, 2 eyes, breathing air. They look at him, sort of amused, and one of them has something on his belt. He takes out, pointed at him, and that's when he's paralyzed. Now, he's not as you know, I'm not a doctor, but I've gone to doctors about what kind of paralysis is that, where you can stand up and watch something, you just can't move. They said, well, there is a type of paralysis that will just inhibit the motor, motor nerves, where but you'll still be up and aware. You're not going to fall down, in a heap. And from there, he sees them going back inside the thing. The thing takes off. It takes off like a shot out of a gun, and it vanishes in midair. Okay. Now, he goes to see the gendarmes. This man is fairly wealthy. He owns quite a bit of, several fields, expensive crops. His wife is the mayor of the town. The gendarmes are going to be very careful with him because he's also from the resistance in World War II. When he was young, he joined the resistance, and the resistance in that part of France fought in the Alps against the Germans, and they were regarded as heroes of World War II. And so the gendarmes are very careful with him. There are some things he's not going to tell the gendarmes because he thinks, and I went there, he didn't want to talk to anybody from Paris. He didn't want to be on TV. He wanted to concentrate on his experience because he thought there was going to be something else. And he was aware of some of his buddies. Now, this is a part of France where people talk, but they have secrets too. I mean, historically, there are things like that in the U.S., parts where people are not going to talk to strangers.
Right.
The only reason I could go there was that I went there with a lady who was from Paris, with the government. She was with de Gaulle's government. She had the rank of ambassador, and she had a vacation home there. So we went there for 3 days, and she knew everybody there. And he told us what he thought might happen again. And he didn't want the gendarmes mixed in with what he was doing.
Why did he think that something was going to happen again?
They evidently, and he swore us to secrecy about what it was, but evidently there was communication with the beings when he was there.
And now, so these beings just tiny, look like people. Did they have different features than us? Or was it just human
They are
features?
just like the ones at Trinity and like the ones at Socorro. So in that book you have actually 2, 2, and 3, you have 7 creatures that are humanoid, that breathe our air, that seem to understand us. The visual, there is visual contact. We can have visual contact with animals. I mean, That doesn't mean they are human or meta-human, but there is messages that come through all of that that the witnesses are reluctant to talk about in all 3 cases. So in Socorro, finally, the Air Force went there. They threw the Air Force out because the Air Force said, well, that's just a gadget, from the base, and that was stupid. So they finally sent Dr. Hynek there. And Dr. Hynek asked me to organize the files that were coming. I was at Northwestern at the time, working. I had done my PhD already, and I was on the staff of the computing center. And we had a small team trying to help, free, trying to help Hynek keep the files together. So we were, in communication with him the whole time. And then I put the files together, and I have the file. This is the official file.
So these people were reluctant to talk about what these creatures were communicating with them. But did they talk about it at all?
It was very personal.
Very personal.
Yeah. There had been a communication that transcended their life. There was something else, something outside. So you could almost call it a sort of a religious feeling, but it wasn't. It wasn't about divinity or God specifically, but it was about the other side of life, a bigger meaning for life. But that's their interpretation. It may not be. There may be other things that they are trying to communicate.
But it was very profound for them.
Yes.
And all three cases had similar stories in that regard.
And in all three cases, there are traces that were measured. There were, there is technology of sort. And in the case of Socorro, people came up with all kinds of ideas that maybe it was a balloon, a special balloon, right? There were only 12 of them in the world and so on. Well, in the book, people haven't noticed it, but in the book, I was able to solve that problem because I found a transcript of a conversation with a man who was head of a motor pool at the on the Army range at White Sands, and he had given his team some instructions on how to make sure that the motor pool was working really well, because White Sands is so big. When people went home, they could get lost, at White Sands, and then how are you going to find them? I mean, there are tracks, but there is no paved road at the time. How are you going to, find them? So you can launch a helicopter the next day looking for, a lost car somewhere with a family in it. But so he made rules that they had to call periodically to report where they were when they went home, 50 miles away across the desert. So they could find them if there was something wrong with the car. He's driving home with his family. This is after the Socorro thing is done. They are all interrogating Lonnie Zamora, the cop who was driving that thing. And he sees a light over the mountains in the southwest towards Mexico. But it's still, it's still in New Mexico, but it's in that direction. A light that's not a star, it's really bright. And the light gets brighter and brighter, and his car dies. Now, he's head of a motor pool, for the base. Everybody reports to him, and they have all the army cars and the trucks and everything else, the half-tracks. So he looks at that thing. He tries to call his team. The radio doesn't work. Radio should work. Radio doesn't work. And the thing gets very bright, and then it recedes. It goes away the way it apparently came in. We don't know if it came in or if it just got bright. Okay. The car starts. He goes home, and then the next day he goes to his shop. He gets his staff together. He says, you guys are going to take this car apart. I want to see every screw and every piece of it and every lever and everything and the seats and so on. I want to see all of that on the floor. And you're going to test it, and you're going to tell me what's changed or, if anything, how that car stopped in the middle of the desert. And they couldn't find anything. And that report was an official report, that was never published. And it nails the whole thing, that this was not a balloon. This was not an hallucination. The patrolman wasn't drunk like they accused him of, or making up a story and so on.
Do you wonder at all that this is a massive psyop and this is all just to cover up some very advanced American weapons technology?
I think it's a very good question, and here's why I don't believe that. Because I have done 30 years of field research, right? So I've gone to China, I've been to Russia, I've been to Australia and Africa and South America, Canada, Alaska, all across Europe, the United States, and I've investigated close encounters of the third kind. And I would ask your audience, don't take it from me, but the United States Air Force investigated and categorized close encounters of the first, second, and third kind, right? During their official capacity, Project Sign, Project Grudge, Project Blue Book.
Great fucking movie, by the way. If you haven't seen it, folks, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, probably the best alien invasion movie of all time.
Dr. Hynek has a cameo appearance in that film. Did you know that?
I had heard that.
Yeah, so
I don't remember who he was, though, but wasn't the French guy, didn't he?
Yeah, Jacques Vallée.
He's supposed to be Jacques Vallée.
Jacques Vallée has a cameo. Well, there's a guy acting his part, but actually Dr. Jalen Hynek, who's a scientific advisor to Project Blue Book all those years for the Air Force, actually has a cameo appearance, smoking a cigar during the encounter. And
that's him.
Right.
That's
Dr.
right.
Hynek.
That's right.
Yep.
Smoking a pipe.
Smoking a pipe. And a lot of the cases, right down to Richard Dreyfuss's face being burned by the UFO, those came directly out of Project Blue Book files. Even the description of what the entities looked like. Close encounters. Again, close encounters of the third kind. This is the United States Air Force documenting this stuff.
Yeah.
And he took it directly out of Project Blue Book files and made a movie out of it. And as a little wink, wink, nudge, nudge, he has Dr. Hynek have a cameo appearance in the movie.
You know what?
Most people don't know that.
It's a fantastic movie, too.
It's a great movie.
Because it's a movie that's filled with, it's not like standard UFOs land. There's some play going on. There's some weirdness to the way they interact with us that sort of is much more realistic. In terms of like the things that people experience, they experience interactions, very strange interactions. And when they had those little orb-like things that were flying around in the movie, that's all straight out of like...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%. I remember I had a buddy of mine who was a pilot over Europe in the 70s, and he used to come for family dinners, and he was always talking about it, and I was like, yeah, whatever. And then later, we're all in the life.
Fighters.
When I started getting interested in UFOs, I was like, Michael, tell me about that UFO encounter you had, that red orb. He goes, it was just like it was in the Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Steven Spielberg's movie. And I was like, they took those files directly out of Project Blue Book files and right onto the big screen.
That's what the Foo Fighters were, right?
Yeah, Foo Fighters too. They had little orbs.
Yeah,
little orbs.
Fighter pilots are flying around. They're seeing these things with them.
Well, but let me ask you, and this is why that I don't think it's a PSYOP thing. Because,
I don't think it's a PSYOP either.
Well, the reason why I don't is because, I don't just believe Grush because he testified under oath and he's a high-level intelligence officer. That's very impressive. I believe Grush because his claims align with my personal research in the field. Remember, I've investigated crash retrieval programs, crash retrieval cases, right? Mm-hmm. And so when I put out Moment of Contact, when I went in to put out Moment of Contact, people were going, James, you just dropped one of the biggest, most successful UFO films in terms of transcending the UFO community and penetrating a much broader, more mainstream audience. Are you sure you want to put out a documentary that deals with an alleged crash and live aliens walking around the town of Varginha, Brazil? Like, seriously, that's what you want to put out there? You got access to like Harry Reid and all these intel insiders, and now you want to do that? You're going to tarnish your reputation. It's a bad...
Who gave you that advice?
A lot of people did. I
wish you called me.
Well,
you like, James, you can handle it.
You probably heard about Moment of Contact, and then you thought, this sounds too crazy. Then eventually you watched it.
No, I thought, I always think a crash and contact sounds crazy.
I know it does.
I always think that. But I would have never told you not to do it.
Oh, okay.
I would have never told you not to do it. You're really good at this. You know how to, you're really good at, explaining
But you
UFO
look at half
phenomena.
the town talking about it, including the mayor.
That's an incredible story. It's an incredible story.
It's a phenomenal story.
It's one of those stories where you're like, if everybody's in on this, this is crazy. If everybody's telling it, and there's not one contrarian that comes out and goes, they all told me to lie. I'm not fucking lying. This is stupid. They're doing it for tourism. Not one person? Come on. There's always some hater. There's always some hater who wants to ruin your gag.
I remember.
You know what I mean?
I told you. I remember when I was making Moment of Contact and I wasn't done with it yet, Lou Elizondo was like, he's like, James, he called me up. He goes, I need a copy. I was like, the film's not done. I don't care. I need a copy. Give me a rough cut. I don't care. I was like, okay, what's the urgency? And he's like, you don't understand who's watching this right now. So I was like, okay. So I'm giving him copies, and I had absolutely no idea ever in 100 million years that I think we're going to be having, months after the release of Moment of Contact, a congressional hearing under oath that was a crash retrieval program.
What year did
Biologics.
Moment of Contact come out?
It came out at the end of 2022.
Do you think Biden watched it? Do you think he sat down with Biden? That would have been wild.
God, he's been
Could you
so
imagine Biden?
he's been so dismissive of it all. Like, Obama said a lot more about
Why? Because he's already in space. He's in space right now.
He's like, go talk
He's
to Obama.
in orbit
like,
right now
I was
around
like, really?
Saturn.
That's the best you can do?
He's like Dr. Manhattan. He's on the moon in a glass house.
Okay, let's say, if Biden, if you're listening right now, you have nothing
Sir,
to lose.
You're the
right?
president of the United States, sir. Release the hounds.
He's never running ever again.
Exactly.
He's not running for a second term.
Yeah.
Come on, we're done.
He's already pardoned more human beings than any president ever other than Carter.
To the advice at the end of the program by Senator Harry Reid, who's now the late Senator Harry Reid, and I said to him, what advice would you give the president? And it could have been any president at the time. And he said, don't be afraid of tarnishing your legacy by addressing this issue head on. And I hope that Biden gets to see that. And I really hope that President-elect Donald Trump gets to see that. People are ready for the truth. They've had enough of the lying. I think we're way beyond that at this point.
I agree with you. However, when I confronted Mr. Trump, he was very cagey.
Was he really?
Very cagey. I've seen some things. They told me some things. He didn't tell me shit. He basically,
Really?
it
Did
was
his eyes
basically
tell you?
like neither confirm nor deny. No, there was no eyes. I don't do that shit. Especially to a pro like Donald Trump. Like, you're not.
Really?
Yeah. If you're going to do it to an actor or so, shut up. You're not going to know what the fuck
just
they think.
poker face.
Daniel Day-Lewis told you that he just ate a baby. You'd fucking believe him. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, this idea that, like
little
what did his
blood dripping
eyes
down.
tell you? What did his eyes tell you? It depends
No
on the
way.
person. Depends on the person. If it's your regular crackpot and they tell you a lie, you're like, something's up. But there's people that can hide things. They can hide things behind their eyes. I think he knows something. I don't think he's that interested. I think he's more interested. I think he's a sort of a no-nonsense type of guy. This is why. You kind of have to be managing multiple businesses simultaneously, right?
Yeah.
He's always done that his whole career, right?
Yeah.
Managed being on The Apprentice while running these golf courses, while having these buildings, apartment buildings, hotels. He's constantly doing something, right?
Yes.
So while he's doing all that, and he's playing golf, while he's doing all that, there's no time for fucking aliens, man. There's no time for nonsense. There's no time for sitting around with your buddies, smoking a cigar going, what do you think, man? I mean, if I was them, man, I would do what they're doing. I wouldn't even, there's no time for that nonsense talk. That guy's got businesses.
But we got objects of unknown origin flying over residential areas, flying over military bases, flying over nuclear silos.
Well, now I think he's much more interested because
That's a matter of national security. People
is
are
now.
freaking out. Like, what the hell are we seeing? And they're going, we don't know what they are, but everything's fine.
Well,
There's
he's
totally
addressed it.
safe. There's no national security issue here. We don't know what they are, but you're fine. Don't worry about it. You remember what was the Steven Spielberg movie with the shark, the great white shark?
Yeah, Jaws.
Jaws. You remember?
Yeah,
They're
yeah,
like, everything's fine.
The mayor's like, keep swimming.
Yeah, keep swimming. The water's fine. Everyone would say people are getting bit in half.
That's the perfect analogy. Dude, that is the perfect analogy. Right. That is it.
Everything's fine. Go about your lives.
They're definitely
Nothing
not
to see
nuke
here.
sniffing drones. Come on, nuke sniffing drones. So what if some nuclear material was just stolen off a cargo ship? Whatever. Guys.
All the online conspiracy stuff is crazy, and I get a lot of it because obviously what I do.
Of course.
And people send me all kinds of stuff. I was like, well, hang on a second. I wish I could put boots on the ground, but no, there's something really weird going on. And the fact that they don't know, or they're claiming that they don't know what it is.
The subject is much more open to discussion, like I was saying, amongst serious people.
Yes.
Where it didn't used to be before. And now I think with this drone thing, I think there's so many people that are going, okay, even if they're ours or they're China's or they're what's going on? Like, why are there so many of them? What are the answers? And why can't you tell us? Is it because they're searching for a nuke? Jesus Christ, maybe you should warn people and get the fuck out of here. Is that really what's going on? Like, if it's not, what is going on? And if it's not ours, what are they? And how come you can't track them? How come, like, what kind of...
Very bizarre.
It doesn't even make sense.
It's very,
It doesn't
very
make
bizarre.
sense when you think of the capabilities of the United States military. It doesn't make any sense. They can't figure out what's going on. I think what Trump said is probably correct, that the government knows. They know what's happening, and they don't want to tell people.
Why
for
wouldn't
whatever
he
reason.
know? He could tell us. Why wouldn't he tell us?
I don't think he knows yet. I don't think until he gets into office. He gave a speech about it at Mar-a-Lago.
I saw that. But did he say...
Well, let's watch it. We'll watch it. We'll watch it.
Yeah,
pull the speech up.
Yeah, because I'm wondering if he... Yeah, well, we're about to find out.
Yeah, essentially he was saying that he knows that the government knows what's going on, and they're not telling us.
So
and that means they're not telling him.
So they're not telling him.
No, I don't think until you get into office, you're not the president, right? So he's the president-elect. I don't know what kind of...
clearances that he has.
Yeah, I don't understand how that works.
God, I'd be very curious to know what he knows.
Right, especially with this. Like, who do you even ask? Like, who's the person that can lay out the information? Like, which department? Which agency?
Yeah,
Let's
right.
hear
And
him
it seems
talk.
like they're so compartmentalized.
What about the fear here at home of the drones?
Good to see you.
Thank you. Good to see you. Good to see you.
Can you comment on the drones that are flying around New Jersey ports? It seems like the American people have a big disconnect.
The government knows what is happening. Look, our military knows where they took off from. If it's a garage, they can go right into that garage. They know where it came from and where it went. And for some reason, they don't want to comment. And I think they'd be better off saying what it is. Our military knows, and our president knows.
Our president knows.
And for some reason, they want to keep people in suspense. I can't imagine it's the enemy, because if it was the enemy, they'd blast it out. Even if they were late, they'd blast it. Something strange is going on. For some reason, they don't want to tell the people, and they should, because the people are really, I mean, they happen to be over Bedminster.
Will you
Want to
shoot
know
them
the
down?
truth. They're very close to Bedminster. I think maybe I won't spend the weekend in Bedminster. I've decided to cancel my trip.
Yeah.
I think I won't spend the weekend in Bedminster.
Yeah. I
Wow.
mean, I bet someone told him, Mr. President, it's pretty important that you don't go to the golf course. Yeah.
God, that's so crazy.
Yeah.
Hey,
so what does that mean?
I gotta, if you don't mind, I was contacted. I went to this.
Are you going to switch subjects?
Well, no. This is all about exactly what we're talking about. This is something that I really need to put out there because it's very important.
Okay.
And it's an unprecedented effort spearheaded by this woman, Andrea, who runs a number of communities on Reddit. And she said that they're banding together for the first time ever. It's the biggest grassroots campaign for government transparency. This is happening on Friday, the 20th of December at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. And this has the potential to reach millions and millions of people. It's the most unprecedented event on Reddit in history. And I'll post all of the necessary information on X because this is a very grassroots effort. And
what are they doing?
At James C. Fox on X, formerly known as Twitter. It's the Reddit community is banding together for a huge grassroots campaign for government transparency. So basically all the various platforms on Reddit, like paranormal, UFO, they don't usually get along too well, but they're all combining their resources and they're getting together for the first time ever and to push for government transparency. There's a couple of government insiders that appear in my film that will be appearing on this to answer questions and what steps need to be happening, what's going on today. And this is happening on the 20th of December, 3 p.m., and I'll be posting more information, the very specific details on X at James C. Fox. I just wanted to get that out there before because...
Well, the more this stuff that happens, the better. The more people demand it, the better. The more politicians hear from the people and want to... I mean, especially politicians that are up for re-election and they want to show that they're doing what the people want them to do. Yeah, I'd like to know more, but obviously I'm very happy that we're hearing much more about this subject in a serious way.
Yeah.
You know, whatever the hell's going on. So you're obsessed with UFOs, right? Is that safe to say?
It's safe to say, but it's not so much just the UFO itself. I mean, I don't call them that anymore. We call these advanced aerial threats. They're different. But
Threats?
You honed in on a word we weren't supposed to really get into here in the first part of the show.
Did you have a plan?
I have a very long plan, detailed plan. We're going to start with my body. We're just going to talk about my body for a lot. And
okay, what do you want to talk about when it comes to your body?
Well, my body is interesting. It's unique.
Okay.
And it changes shape. And what I've noticed is it's just changing.
Yeah, it's getting larger.
Larger,
maybe?
getting wider.
Depending upon what you put in it.
But you're all. Can I cuss?
Yeah, for sure. We're on the internet.
You're so fucking fit. You shook my hand. I think you're gonna break my hand.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, just don't be strong.
I didn't mean to.
Don't be so
I was
handsome
just
and
shaking
strong.
your hand. Just thought it was a handshake.
I know. Well, it's one of those power moves. You ever see when Trump shakes people's hands and he pulls them in and he's like,
yeah, he does do weird shit.
he does
right?
weird shit like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't mean to do that. I just meant to shake your hand like a man.
Well, I took it as like, know your place, motherfucker.
Oh,
this
that's
is my
weird.
show.
I didn't think that.
No, I'm just joking.
Interesting. So, when did you get obsessed with this aerial threat thing? And why do you call them threats?
We'll get into that, I guess.
Okay.
But I got into it when I was in junior high. For some weird reason, I had like some time off and I went to the school library in like 7th grade, and I was like, damn, I gotta read some boring shit. What am I gonna read? And I saw this one book, and it had a picture of the Loch Ness Monster and like a UFO. I'm all, that looks cool. And I read that, and I was like, holy cow, these are like real. It wasn't all science fiction. I mean, the way the book was laid out, I was like, these are like real events. I'm all, there's no way, really. And then when the band started doing its thing in the back of the van, there were no like smartphones, so we were buying books, and I would just lay there. We'd have like 20-hour drives, and so I started buying books on the UFO phenomenon. And I was, once you do that, it's a black hole. You're done.
Yeah, it's definitely a rabbit hole. You get sucked into it. At my house, I have a framed poster that's the cover of the Roswell Daily News.
Yeah,
that shows the day after the Roswell crash, where it says that the Air Force came and recovered the wreckage, and the whole deal. I've been obsessed with this shit since I was a little kid.
Yeah, I think that's by design. I think that this generation was meant to have this stuff come out. But I can't prove that. That's just my feeling.
What makes you feel that? Like,
because of exactly what you said. There's a lot of people. I don't believe that some of the events happened on accident. I think that there's been a lot of events that are on purpose. Some have been for show. Some have been for. There's a variety of reasons, but I think a lot of it is a control system that's really pushing humanity in a very specific direction. And
so like they've got a time frame where they've had these events take place. Is that what you think?
Yeah, and they also time travel, which is different than what people think in like a movie where they sit in a machine and all of a sudden you're in the 1930s and you got to go save humanity. When you use the technology, there's a time difference between what they're doing inside of an artificially created bubble of gravity of sorts, and then what's on the outside. So if you're on the inside of one of those machines, everything would be skewed more black and white. There would be like a red shift, and everybody would look frozen. So you literally could fly around and grab a Coke out of someone's hand and put it in someone else's hand. It's really...
Where are you getting this from?
Well, take a wild guess. Look at the people I'm surrounded by,
So the people you're surrounded by are telling you this? Is that what it is?
Well, I don't want to get into that, but the people I'm surrounded with and myself, are very close to this stuff. But the physics, the physicist that's a co-founder of my company, To the Star, he's a Nobel nominee. He wrote the book on plasma physics.
What's his name?
Dr. Hal Puthoff. And he created remote viewing. Do you know what remote viewing is?
Yeah.
He's the creator of the CIA psychic spy program, but he also has done like really exotic, advanced, forefront propulsion work for the past decades and decades. Actually, I mean, he's deep into the like quantum this and that. So he's the one that actually told me about the redshift. Yeah.
And so they have experienced this physically, or is this just theoretical, or they know that it exists? Like
the technology?
Yes.
I believe that the technology not only exists, we've figured out how to play with it, but I'm not going to really get into that here. That is what we're doing at my company, though. That is the announcement. So Steve Justice was head of advanced programs at the Skunk Works, and the Skunk Works are who built, the famous secret bases you hear about. Skunk Works did, the U-2 spy plane, the SR-71 Blackbird, the F-117 stealth fighter, and
it's all Groom Lake out there,
all
right?
that kind of stuff. And And he literally was in charge of all the advanced programs. So, you know, you got the boss and you got him. And he came, he just finished his career over there within the past 2 months, I think it is. And he was on stage with me when we came out and said, we're going to be building one of these things.
So when you say that all this technology exists, have they explained this to you, or have you seen it physically?
Oh, I haven't seen anything physically like that. I wouldn't be allowed to go anywhere if that does or doesn't exist.
So they've just explained to you that this exists, and that this is in the hands of the U.S. government.
I think no. I don't want to get into that kind of stuff, but if you don't mind.
But why is it that you want to not get into certain things?
Well, I don't want to I represent more than myself these days.
Right.
So I definitely have to watch what I say.
Well, who do you represent when you say you represent more than yourself?
The team that I'm with. So when you look at the people that are a part of my company, it's Undersecretary of Defense and Senior Intelligence Service.
Is there a list of these people that we could see?
Oh, yeah. I thought you guys would have had that.
Yeah, but I mean, is there like a list where folks could see it online?
Yeah, they can go to tothestarsacademy.com and scroll down, and you'll be able to see who they all are. So
how did you get linked up with all these people?
That story might be a better way to start, because a lot of people don't know this part of the story, and I think you're going to find it pretty fucking odd as well. But okay, so we'll back up a couple years. So I was obviously, I started the band Blink, and Blink went places, and then, but we always had a weird band relationship, like most bands, and we also thought that we would never be big, so we started companies on the side, and I had a company that incubated a lot of small startups, like software and apparel and hardcore skate surf companies and stuff like that. Well, I learned a lot from that, and I pulled out an entertainment startup called To the Stars. And I knew I was going to be doing kind of like science fiction franchised stories, just like Disney, but science fiction for adults. And what that means is, I make a story, I title it, I brand it, and I put out the book, and I put out the merchandise, and I go make a movie, and it's a vertically integrated kind of model. Well, one of the stories I knew I wanted to put out was Secret Machines, which was kind of a historical fiction, but based on real events about the UFO phenomenon. But I also knew that I knew shit that most people don't know, because I've studied it for so long, and I happen to put some pieces together that most people don't put together. So before I came out with that book, and before I came out with the plan to take that, make major motion pictures and all that kind of stuff, I knew I needed to ask permission. So I flew around to places. I can't say who they were, and they listened to my pitch, and then I got a email out of nowhere that says meet us next to the Pentagon at this day and time, and I did that. And from that,
you got an email from just a random person?
No, I just can't tell you who it's from.
Okay.
And so then I go out.
Meet you next to the Pentagon? So you just flew to the Pentagon?
I flew out to Pentagon City. Yeah. It's dude, this gets...
Were you freaking out?
I'll tell you when I started freaking out. There's more shit. It gets way worse. This is nothing. So that started me out near D.C. taking some other high-level meetings, and there was somebody at a very high level that closed the door, looked me in the eye, and says, "Okay, I'm going to introduce you to somebody." And that person comes to San Diego, puts me on the phone with a general, and the general is listening to my little stump speech about what I want to do with this franchise, because I definitely didn't want to, I wasn't looking to like force disclosure, and I wasn't looking to be rogue and break secrets. I was like, look, I know what's going on here, and you guys are doing a kick-ass job, and I would have done the exact same thing should I have been the guy at the top that had to make some really hardcore decisions 70 years ago. So I want to support you. I think people are cynical because there's a vacuum. You guys can't say what you're doing. So all these people are just coming up with a bunch of bullshit to say, oh, they don't want us to know, or we can't handle it, or it's all about oil and money and all this weird shit.
But you had put these pieces together independently.
I did.
And so based on books that you read?
Yeah, people think that like places like the CIA and the DIA, all these intelligence organizations have, a monopoly on information. They don't. They get their information from the real world too. They do have access to archives of information. They do have access to some amazing, satellite data and stuff like that. But if you're smart and you take your time, you know where to look, and you find patterns, you can pretty much put together all the same shit they can, kind of, you know. And that's what I did. And so when I pitched what I wanted to do, he said, come up and meet me tomorrow. And so I flew up to NASA, actually, NASA Ames, and had a 2-hour meeting there. And after 2 hours, that person says, he looks me in the eyes, I'm going to introduce you to someone else. And he did. And so I got on the phone with this person, and this person, you know, go, I'm a skeptic. And then at the end of the conversation, he goes, fly out and see me. And so I did. And that's when things really started happening. So I fly out to this airport, and I sit at a table in a restaurant at the airport. No one's in there. And this gentleman sits down, and the waiter comes up. He waves off the waiter, and he looks me in the eye and says, it was the Cold War, and we found a life form. And that's when I started shitting my pants, because I know a lot about this stuff, but you always wait to talk to somebody that is one of the inside people. You always want to have...
So he sits down at a restaurant with you at the airport and tells you that they found a life form.
Yes. And
during the Cold War?
During the Cold War. And everything that they did and every decision they made at the time was because of the consciousness of the Cold War.
And why has this guy decided to meet with you at an airport?
Because the only way you meet with these people, the only way you ever would have anyone talk to you is if you can provide a service that they need. Mm-hmm. And my service was pretty interesting to them, because I said, look, you guys, you know, you struggle with saying disclosure. You want to tell everybody everything, which I don't think everyone should know everything. And then you say they can't handle it, so don't tell them anything, you know. And I'm like, there's a middle road there. And here's the way I would do the middle road. And it resonated with them, you know. And so we had a pretty epic conversation for like 2 hours.
Why you? Like, why? What is it about what your message was?
Because
what your idea was that made them want to tell you some top secret shit that they've tried to keep away from the American people. I mean, you take a guy who's like a big celebrity who's in a huge rock band like you, and you just say, hey, meet me in an airport. I'm going to tell you about a life form that we found during the Cold War, because you're famous or because you know things?
No, because I have a service. So it's not. It sounds easy when you play it like that, but
service.
A service. Like, what can you do for them that they need help with?
And what could you do?
Communication. They don't have a way to make a movie, a book. They don't know how. Don't have a way to make documentaries. They don't have a way to go on a big show like this and communicate with young people. They don't do that, and nor should they. They look at. You got to look at what they're doing.
So they look to you for a spokesperson role?
I wouldn't say spokesperson role.
Communication role?
A communication role. It makes more sense.
So they would give some information to you, and you would get it out to people. And now, why wouldn't they do it themselves? Because they wouldn't have the same platform?
They don't have
access to the same platform that you would have?
And the other reason is people have tried to do movies and stuff like this, but none of them know. I was fortunate enough to know the core story, and most people don't.
So explain that then, if you don't mind going back. Like, when you said that you were able to put things together that other people weren't. What are those things?
Essentially, it's the book Secret Machines, where you have a lot of private finance, you have some world bankers, and you have a lot of people internationally working together to figure out a plan of how to push back against something that's been coming here for a very long time, but using off-the-books finances and using mechanisms that we're not totally aware exist. And what people have to realize is, you know, the UFO phenomenon isn't a phenomenon. There's the universe is fucking gigantic, and there's life everywhere. Every fucking where, and there's a lot of life that's way more advanced than we are. And just like Voyager left our solar system, a little dinky satellite from the 70s, and just like my company's going to be building, you know, this electromagnetic craft that really can do the same thing to time that I've been telling you about. Other civilizations have that too, which means you can traverse those distances of space. And what you have to think about is what happened when we first discovered that, and what did we do about it? And there's no, you know, you got to look at 47 in a very peculiar way. 90 days after the Roswell event, CIA was created, the Air Force was separated from the Army, the National Security Act was created, and all those things are mechanisms to start learning more and to start getting private industry off the ground.
So that had nothing to do with World War II. You think it had to do with aliens?
Oh, I absolutely think it. Well, both, because what I believe crashed at Roswell was, I believe it was German from Argentina, but it had hallmarks and technology based on alien technology. So we put out a story saying it's alien, and then we put out a story saying it's a weather balloon. But the real thing it was, we didn't want anyone to guess, and that's why we put those two things out there. And that's kind of how they do it. I think they did that with the moon. It's like, we went to the moon, and then they put out this meme kind of thing, like we didn't go to the moon, but they didn't want people really going, well, what's on the moon? That so these things are managed until they can figure it out, because you got a bunch of normal dudes in suits sitting at a big table like this, and it's their fucking responsibility to figure this thing out. And this shit is monumentally big. But back to
how would they manage this then? If these regular dudes without access to communication like you have, how have they managed to disseminate this information and sort of confuse everybody?
I think, I can tell, I don't know how they did it. I do know that they infiltrated UFO groups. That was the very first thing they did in the 50s.
Sort of like how FBI agents and undercover cops infiltrated Occupy Wall Street and pretended to be radical hippies and started fights. Yep,
they did that. They get access to what the civilians are learning, how information transfers from one group to another, and then they start deflecting all their knowledge and putting in leaks and this and that, and getting them off the main track, not because of a disdain for citizens and not because of any other reason than picture ISIS. We don't know what ISIS is. They got a nuclear bomb, and we caught a guy trying to sneak in this bomb.
Right.
Are they going to stop and come sit on your couch and tell you all about it? No. And if you're like on the radio and there's all these people going, oh my God, we're going to die, a bomb, they'll hold up a second. You're not going to fucking die, but we need to learn more about this, and we got to figure it out before we sit down and talk to you about it.
Yeah. When you hear about stories about these fighter pilots finding these objects in the sky that exhibit extraordinary capabilities and don't have all the signatures of traditional propulsion systems, what is your thoughts?
Generally, I tend to be agnostic to the topic. I have a lot of friends that are extremely interested in a lot of things that are out and about in the in the media and in the literature. But generally, I tend to be agnostic, and here's why. In everything that's currently out that people talk about and highlight, it's difficult for me to take the data and the evidence and then pull that into the work that we do in the lab with some of the different test devices we work with as we kind of explore the frontiers of where physics and propulsion might intersect. It's hard to take that and turn that into some kind of an action plan, if you will. So I'm certainly aware, like David Fravor, the experience that he had with, I think he calls them Tic Tacs, right? An amazing account. And there's multiple people that saw it, multiple platforms that saw it. And so to start with, right, I thought maybe there was a small chance that was just like we have stealth technology, right, where if you want to hide a plane, what if we had the ability to project something, right, through some mechanism where we could make people go where we wanted them to go, right? Because I know there's a technology that uses like two different lasers that triangulate a certain point in open air, and they put enough energy into a particular location that they ionize the air, and so it creates like a bright pixel. And so they use that to create three-dimensional displays that kind of look like they're just floating out in air. Now, they're not quite as big as what we saw described with the Nimitz encounter on the West Coast. So I thought for a little while maybe that might be something that we're seeing.
They can project plasma as well, right? Is that the same thing?
It's the same thing, right? So that the two lasers intersect, they ionize the air, which creates a plasma.
And they can do this over long distances as well, right?
I don't know about long distances. I know they can do it over short distances.
Okay.
And so for a while there, I wondered if that might be something that could explain some of what
that makes sense.
What David Fravor and the group saw.
The only problem would be the radar. Because I don't know if you wouldn't pick up that on radar, would you? Because it's not a mass, right?
So the plasma would certainly absorb a radar signal, right? Because it's gonna polarize any electromagnetic wave that tries to go through.
So it would show up.
It might. It might.
Would it be possible to make something that big, that's 20 feet long, out of that?
It's hard for me to imagine that.
Right.
But I think there's one piece of data that just came out in the last few weeks. I think David Fravor's wingman, Alex, I think her name is Alex Dietrich. I can't remember the name.
I think you're right. Something like that.
So she came out, and so in all the things associated with that particular encounter, right, one of the things I've been trying to figure out is how do they describe the specular surface of the Tic Tac, right? Because if it's these plasma pixels that I'm talking about that kind of creates a volumetric display, I would speculate it might be kind of a glowy looking thing. But I think Alex, in her account, described it as kind of a flat type of
like matte, yeah.
Yeah, so that kind of torpedoed my working theory. So, but again, while it's amazing and incredible, and it's something that people want to go think about and go try and collect more data, it doesn't help me do what I'm doing in the lab. And so I think I kind of keep, my eyes dart every once in a while over to that particular topic. Oh, what's that about? That's interesting. Right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm honestly agnostic as well. I bounce back and forth from being really excited about it to feel like I'm being duped all the time. Jamie and I talk about it all the time. I'm back in.
Right. Hal Puthoff, although he's got a lot of many and varied interests, he's a great physicist. He's published a lot of great papers in the literature just thinking about physics, right? He's got some stuff he's looked at called the polarizable vacuum. And so, in my drawer of preferred papers, I have a number of papers in there that are from Hal's work on the polarizable vacuum because I find that interesting and fascinating. And so there may be some things out there that are adjacent to the concept where you could try and pull some of that together, I guess.
Well, that's a fascinating thing for you to say because Hal believes they have them, and he believes that we have 10 of them.
Yeah. Oh, yes, I know that.
Yeah, which is just so nuts.
Yeah.
And then, he's a little agnostic on the Bob Lazar story. But the Bob Lazar story, which I'm sure you're aware of, is essentially what we're talking about. Like, you would bring in some out-of-the-box thinkers. And if you found some wildly intelligent, young scientist who put a rocket engine in the back of a Honda, which is what he did, you would go, what is that crazy fucker up to? Like, let's have him look at it. What's it hurt?
Right.
The guys at Rocketdyne say he's a wizard.
Right.
Bring him out there. Or the guys at wherever he wasn't at Rocketdyne. He was at Los Alamos. The guys at Los Alamos said he's a wizard. So let's bring him out here. Let's see what's going on.
Yeah, his story is I'm not too familiar with it. Right.
It's the nuttiest story of all time.
Yeah.
And he supposedly, they denied that he ever worked at Los Alamos, but then they found him on an employee log. And not only that, he knew the outline of the place. He knew the security people. George Knapp took him on a tour of it, and he knew everybody. He knew the people that worked there. He knew how to get around. Like, he clearly worked there. So that's interesting that they tried to deny that he ever worked there. And then from there, he gets this job where he is flown out to the desert to Area 51 Site 4. And this is allegedly, right? During this time, he can't even tell his wife what he's doing. So his wife thinks he's going having affairs. He's got to leave and fly away at 11 p.m. at night. Like, right, buddy. You can't tell me where you're going? You want to work? Right.
Yeah, you're working late again?
The wife starts having an affair. And because of his
this
clearance...
almost sounds like a movie, right?
It does sound like a movie. Which is one of the beautiful things about reality. Is that reality seems so fake that sometimes actual true stories are bizarrely fictional.
Right.
So his wife starts having an affair. Because of his clearance, he cannot be working on these things if he could be under extreme emotional duress. So they fire him. They tell him he can't. They don't give him any explanation. They don't tell him his wife's cheating on him. He starts taking people out to the desert, explaining to them, you have to see what we're working on. They fly this thing on certain nights, and they do these test flights around the base. It's nuts. So he takes these people into this area. They see it. They get arrested. When he gets arrested, he gets caught there. He explains what he was doing. he says, okay, I've got to go public or they're going to kill me. So he goes public with George Knapp. Initially, they hide his face, and then he says, you know what, fuck that. Let's just film me. Let me tell you everything.
Yeah.
He goes over the diagram of this device, and he calls it the sport model, and it looks like that. That thing that we have right there.
It's almost like a hubcap, right? But
exactly.
Gotcha.
That's a copy of it.
Okay.
In the middle of that thing is some sort of a generator that he said works on this unknown element, this element 115.
Oh, some of this is coming back to me. I think I've seen some stuff over the years.
Yes.
Yeah, some of it's coming back to me now.
And essentially the way he describes it traveling, and again, this is in the 1980s, the way he describes it traveling is exactly the way you describe that sort of warp drive, changing space and time around it. And that you would point that thing where you wanted to go, and it would just...
Yeah. That it all sounds very surreal, right? There's another story. Again, as I said, I have a number of friends that are keenly interested in this, and so I've been exposed to some of the different things. And that to me, the Tic Tac account is interesting because it's got a lot of rigorous data, if you will, that helps you go, well, I can't explain that, I can't explain that, I can't explain that. There is another accounting that I just put in the category, my brain doesn't even know what to make of it, and it's the concept of Rendlesham Forest. I don't know if that rings a bell. There's something over in the UK where there's a base over there, and some airmen came across some very weird... I can't even begin to describe...
I'm not sure if I know this one.
It's pretty bizarre. I don't know it well enough to unpack it today, other than to say it's so bizarre that when you listen to the accounts that were recorded, right, it doesn't make any sense. It's like, if you think about if you watch an octopus in an aquarium, right, and the octopus is doing something, you can sometimes understand what their motivation is. There's like a cross-species ability to, it's like communication but without words, right? That octopus wants to go eat that little crab or whatever the case may be. And so our chemical computers, even though they're different, we can look at their behavior and we can go, all right, I think I understand what that octopus might be wanting to do today, or a shark or a dog or a porpoise. But when you hear what happened in that Rendlesham Forest thing, it breaks all of my guessing machine, and it's like,
what is the story?
A colonel and some airmen reported some weird stuff that was going on in Rendlesham Forest. Yeah, and they went out and tried to investigate it, and they saw some. Again, I'm doing such a terrible job of summarizing it because I don't really know the lore very well. But
here it is right here.
Everything they saw was very bizarre and crazy looking.
We can read it.
Right?
It says, 40 years ago, a remote forest in Suffolk was the scene of one of the most famous purported UFO sightings in history. So just what did happen, and will we ever know for sure? Victor Thurnkettle was out chopping wood one morning in Rendlesham Forest in late December 1980 when a car drew up. Out stepped two men, aged about 30, dressed in suits. "Good morning. Do you mind if we ask you some questions?" asked one in a well-spoken English accent. Earlier, on 26 and 28 of December, United States Air Force security personnel stationed at nearby RAF Woodbridge had reported seeing strange lights in the surrounding forest. Forestry worker Mr. Thurnkettle, unannounced and unidentified visitors, asked if he had been out the previous night. I said no, he recalls. They said, "Did you leave the house at all? Did you see anything?" I said, "What?" They said, "Oh, there's a report of some red lights in the forest. We're just checking." And the two men, very politely but firmly, asked me probably about 20 questions. I thought they were journalists. They suddenly said, "Oh, well, fair enough. There's probably nothing in it," and left. So I bought the papers every day for the next few days to find out what was going on, and of course, there was nothing. 3 years later, however, sightings made the News of the World front page story. It proclaimed UFO lands in Suffolk, and that's official. The story was based on a memo from RAF Woodbridge Deputy Base Commander Lieutenant Colonel Charles Halt to the Ministry of Defense. It was released by the U.S. government, described as an encounter with an apparent UFO in the forest. Since then, the sightings have been the source of much debate and speculation among UFO enthusiasts and the subject of numerous books, articles, and TV programs. In March, a documentary concluded the sightings had achieved legend status like the Loch Ness or King Arthur. The forest even has its own official UFO trail, complete with a life-size replica, go back up, of the flying saucer. And this is the replica with like the Hamza thing on it, that hand thing. Bizarre. Thurnkettle, UK authorities have said they didn't learn about the incident. Okay, well, what is the story, though? Let's get to, like, what is the story? Scroll down more. What does it say?
Yeah, and that gets into the stuff that it doesn't make sense in terms of what they describe the UFO doing. It's just very peculiar, right? So,
yeah, they got there. My heart absolutely plummeted. There was nothing. It was an absolute normal glade in the forest with 3 rabbit scrapes. They're all carefully marked. It happened to be roughly a triangle. Okay, what else does it say? What is the sighting? Burn marks on trees, but what's the sighting?
I can show you what the UFO looked like, but
okay.
I mean,
sure. That's what they said it looked like? Yeah. Whoa. And it had those markings on it?
I Googled it. My Google search said that Grush brought it up when he was on here, but I couldn't find like even clips about it, so I don't know that we went that deep into it.
How bizarre is it that it has that symbol? What is that? That's an ancient Hindu symbol, correct? That Hamza symbol?
I don't know.
These are different symbols.
Oh, they're different. Yeah. That looks very weird. Huh. So what about this one stands out to you?
I put this one in the category of I don't understand if it's a real account, right? I mean, so I think when you have a lieutenant colonel that's reporting something as factual, I tend not to just immediately dismiss it.
Right.
But and it's not just him; it's several people around him. What they described, right, doesn't make sense to me, right? Mm-hmm. You know, in terms of the David Fravor talking about the Tic Tac, I can kind of, that's not totally alien to me. I could, it's trying to maneuver with the aircraft and it's maneuvering to their cap or whatever the case may be. And I can kind of connect the dots with that. But the Rendlesham forest thing, it doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, what about it doesn't make any sense?
What they saw, why it was doing what it was doing. What
was it doing?
It just was out in the woods. It was out in the woods, with blinky lights and doing weird stuff.